Give me 2 minutes, and I'll tell you a story. If you were lucky, you grew up in a special place. You probably didn't know it was special back then, you were just a kid. But years later, maybe you realized just how great the old neighborhood really was. Mine was Station Park in Harrison, New York during the 1960s. That was the neighborhood's official title, but we kids knew it by the street names: Coakley, Emerson, Danner, and Hess. That's where we played most of our touch football games, lit off fireworks, and engaged in various and sundry shenanigans. I lived at 48 Coakley Avenue from 1962 until '69, along with my 4 siblings and some 50-plus other children on that wonderful long street that ran from Harrison Avenue down the tree-lined sloping hill to Emerson. Now at 65, I fondly recall my wonder years there, and I'm not alone. Steve Harrigan, a 1974 West Point grad and economic development official in Northern Virginia, says that if Mark Twain were alive in the 1960s, he would have written stories about where we grew up, and Norman Rockwell would have illustrated those timeless tales of youth. Harry McCarthy, whose family lived across the street from ours, became a successful business entrepreneur in Nashville. He tours internationally with Bruce Springsteen and other top artists as the world's #1 drum technician. Harry recalls how the neighborhood was stratified into the big kids and little kids. The pecking order affected who actually played in our street games and who tagged along. Kathleen, Harry's younger sister, is a talented visual artist and educator. She speaks nostalgically of the close relationships that existed between the many Station Park families. The Murata brothers, Rick and Jerry, lived down the street in a small house with a tiny yard, as did just about all of us. Today, they both could probably afford expansive homes, having become 2 of the best-known drummers in the world of rock from the 1970s through the 90s. Years later, Rick became a composer and music director for TV programs such as Everybody Loves Raymond. Brendan Richards left in the 1970s and went to Los Angeles to transform himself into a world-class bodybuilder and training partner of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He later became a corrections officer, returning to live in the neighborhood until he retired to upstate New York. Other Station Park high achievers include Jack, a.k.a. John Smith, who founded a company that he and his partners later sold to the Davy Tree Corporation for a tidy profit, enabling Jack to live out his golden years in Georgia and Colorado. And I became a professor. In Oregon and Indiana, a freelance writer and book author. I had spent my adolescence on Coakley Avenue dreaming of such accomplishments. And that's the thread that runs through so many of our old New York neighborhood success stories. We were all middle or lower middle class kids, but we had aspirations and more talent than I think we realized way back when. Maybe that's what makes so many of us so proud of where we came from. This is Mark Massey. Thanks for listening to my new weekly series, Give Me 2 Minutes, and I'll tell you a story. Stay tuned for more entertaining episodes, something to enjoy in these troubled times.